Welcome to our Devos. It is election week. And we can only say this one time every 4 years. It's election week. And so I thought it would be appropriate, as we've been talking at the church, to discuss election reflection. So we talked about in church how many Christians don't vote. They just don't do it. And there's a lot of reasons. Some of them are kind of respectful. They sound virtuous. Like, well, there's not a perfect candidate. And, President Trump has this character flaw. And Kamala Harris is this way. And, there's no candidate that represents. Okay, and so what we do is we shroud our inactivity with virtue. When in reality, as Christians, it's one of the things that God gives us to steward is to vote according to the conscience that we have with regard to the morality that we believe that God is trying to govern the world with, or that God wants to slow the rotting of the world with. Because if we look at the role of government, which we talked about in church, it's important to focus on trying to pick the best moral candidate with regard to their policies for God's agenda. Now, with that said, how do we look at this in terms of the voting booth? You're like, okay, I don't like Trump. I don't like Kamala Harris. I don't like Republicans. I don't like Democrats. I don't like the two-part, whatever. Here's what you got to do. You got to keep this in mind. Pursue justice and mercy. Pursue justice and mercy. What the heck does that mean? That means when you look at the Democratic platform, when you look at the Republican platform, you have to make a choice of, okay, I'm going to vote for which of these tend to lean more on the justice and mercy side. So let's take a look at Micah chapter 6, verse 8. It says, "He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God." It's a really cool verse to think about when God sums up what he wants you to do is do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. When we look at this election, you want to look at which policies align most with mercy and justice. So we covered this in the sermon, but I'm going to remind you, okay? How does the candidate view abortion and the policies regarding abortion? How does the candidate view securing the nation when it comes to our children? Most specifically, what goes on inside of our schools in terms of the ideology being taught? How does the candidate process that? How does the candidate process what's going on with crime in our country with regard to immigration? Any of these things are on the table. And so Christians like, well, I'm a one voter issue, and I'm a one issue voter, and they'll say that, but they'll use that as a reason. Well, abortion is off the table because Roe versus Wade was overturned, and there's only one candidate that says they want to reinstate Roe versus Wade. There's only one. There's only one candidate that is open to the idea of not really trying to care about what's going on in regards to our schools with gender ideology and confusion of that nature. So you have to look at what is the best I can do. There's no ideal, so what is the best I can do? And so you want to pursue what is good. God is holding us accountable to steward the right that we have. If you would say, I'm a Christian, I don't get involved in politics, I would dare to say that you're too heavenly minded to do any earthly good. I look at the right that we have to vote as the same as the right that we have to manage our money, as the right that we have to manage our health. And when we say, well, look, I'm a Christian, I don't worry about money, I don't worry about this, what you're saying is, I'm so virtuous, I don't have to worry about any of this. Well, the Bible talks about us pursuing justice. The Bible talks about us as really examining what the role of government ought to be. And if I have any say, the people in Jesus' time, they didn't have the kind of say that we do. The people in the times of the Old Testament, they hardly had any say. God has given us a unique gift in this time in history for us to be able to vote. And to exercise it is to seek justice, to pursue mercy, and to follow what God wants us to do.